Alright, this is section 8.1, Exponent Properties Involving Products. So the first thing, just for some quick terminology, when you have a number raised to a power, the whole thing is called the power, the 6 is called the base, and the 3 is called the exponent. So you could read this as 6 cubed, 6 to the third power, or you could write it out as 6 times 6 times 6. Alright, so first thing we're going to talk about is just multiplying powers. So if you have a squared times a cubed, or a to the third, we can think about how a squared is just a times a, and a cubed is a times a times a. So really that's 5 a's. So a squared times a cubed is actually a to the fifth. So hopefully what you notice is that when we multiply powers, we're actually adding the exponent. So this is the first of 3 that we have, and this is the product of powers property. So to multiply powers having the same base, add the exponents. If we have a to the m times a to the n, that equals a to the m plus n. A could be anything as long as it's the same. So 5 to the 6 times 5 cubed equals 5 to the 6 plus 3, which is 9, or 5 to the 9th. Alright, so some examples. 7 cubed times 7 to the 5th. So we're just going to add 3 plus 5, so that's 7 to the 8th. Over here, letter B, the one thing you have to remember is if the exponent's not written, that means that it's just to the first power. So we're going to have 9 to the 1 plus 8 plus 2. So 9 to the 11th power. Down here, even though it's negative, they're still the same, so the same rules apply. That's negative 5th to the first power, so that becomes negative 5 to the 1 plus 6, or negative 5 to the 7th power. And down here, x to the 4th times x cubed is just x to the 7th. Alright, our second scenario, we have a squared raised to the third power. So when you have a power raised to a power, it's going to be a little bit different. You are not going to add, but let's look at what's happening. So a squared cubed actually means 3 a squareds. So a squared times a squared times a squared. Well, if you think back to the property that we just discovered, you would add those exponents. So a to the 6th. Again, you could break it down and see that there are 6 a's there. So anytime you have a power raised to a power, you are going to multiply. So we have the power of a power property. To find a power of a power, multiply exponents. So a to the m raised to the n is a to the mn. For another example, 3 to the 4th squared is 3 to the 8th. We're going to multiply 4 times 2. So some examples. 2 to the 5th cubed, we're going to multiply and get 2 to the 15th. Over here we have negative 6 squared to the 5th power, so again we're going to multiply and we get negative 6 to the 10th power. X squared to the 4th becomes x to the 8th. Y plus 2 to the 6th squared becomes y plus 2 to the 12th. And just because the inside looks a little different doesn't mean anything has to change. You still are going to multiply because it's a power raised to a power. Alright, and this is our last scenario where we have a power of a product. So we have a times b, or ab, cubed. So again, think about that, just means AB times AB times AB, but we know multiplication is commutative, so we can rearrange all of this, and it just becomes A times A times A times B times B times B, and that's the same as A cubed times B cubed. So our next and last product property is to find a power of a product, find the power of each factor, and multiply. So in other words, it's kind of like you're distributing it into both parts of the product. So ab to the m is a to the m times b to the m. And in this example, 23 times 17 to the fifth is 23 to the fifth times 17 to the fifth. Okay, so for some examples, 24 times 13 raised to the 8th power is 24 to the 8th times 13 to the 8th. 9xy squared, here we have three things that are being multiplied, so the squared, the 2 has to go to all of them. So 9 squared times x squared times y squared, and 9 squared is just 81. So 81x squared y squared. C, we have negative 4z squared, so it's going to go to both. So we have negative 4 squared and z squared, while negative 4 squared is positive 16 z squared. But over here at D, the negative is on the outside, so that's going to be a little different. We're going to take care of the exponents first and then bring in the negative. So we have negative 4 squared z squared once we kind of distribute that exponent. Now we have negative 4 squared is 16 z squared, so your final answer should be negative 16 z squared. So notice the difference between this one and this one where the negative is. Here we're squaring the negative, here we're squaring the 4 and then multiplying by a negative. Alright, and for one example, just to sort of put it all together, you're just being asked to simplify. So looking from left to right, the first thing I notice is the property I just looked at where I need to make that 2 go to all parts of the parentheses. So I end up with 2 squared x, and here I have x cubed, so I'm going to multiply. That becomes x to the 6th times x to the 4th, and then 2 squared is 4, and x to the 6th times x to the 4th, I'm going to add exponents, so I get x to the 10th. And that is it for this